In the world of basketball, fans, analysts, and everyone in between always seem to debate the same kinds of things. Who's the best, or where would you rank this player in a top 25 list, typically only focusing on them as overall players. Even the biggest individual statistical categories inspire debates such as the players that can rack up a ton of points being debated as the best scorers, those that get a lot of assists being debated as the best passers, and those that grab a ton of rebounds getting debated as the best rebounders. But there are a few categories that don't necessarily get discussed as much, which leads us to the topic of today's video. Today we'll be ranking the best players in unconventional categories, specifically in the areas of speed, basketball IQ, strength, and hops. For this, I'll be identifying the number one player in each category and then 4 honorable mentions, making for a top 5. Before we start, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first category we'll be ranking is speed, and before we start I have to preface this by saying that with this category and most of the others, it is completely subjective without a lot of definitive evidence, so a combination of combine measurables, in-game production, and just assumptions from the eye test watching them play all go into the decisions made. With that being said, the fastest player in the NBA at the current moment may surprise you, but it's Ben Simmons of the Philadelphia 76ers. Put the lack of a jumper aside for a second and just acknowledge how much of a physical freak this guy truly is. He's a 6'10" player that moves around the court like a guard, and he's one of the very few players in the league that can defend any position on the court because of the combination of size, strength, and most importantly, his speed. Focusing solely on the speed here because that is the category at hand, let me throw some facts at you that I bet you've never heard before. Last season, according to SB Nation, when measuring the top speed of every player in the NBA, Ben Simmons ranked number 1 with a top speed of 19.7 miles per hour. When Simmons gets a full head of steam, his speed is unmatched, which is ridiculous for someone who's 6'10". Also, when comparing him to some of the other usual candidates for fastest player like John Wall and Russell Westbrook, Simmons beat both of those guys in the 3/4 court sprint with a speed of 3.05 seconds. Now, even without those numbers as evidence of his speed, simply watching him play shows his speed on full display on a regular basis. He's one of the best players in transition in the league because if he sees a lane, he's able to go the length of the floor in a breeze and blow by opponents on his way to the basket. Plus, no fast break for opponents is safe because Simmons has shown LeBron-esque ability to chase players down and block them. With all of that said though, this decision was by no means an easy one to make, because there are a lot of fast players in the league worth consideration. The honorable mentions for this category include De'Aaron Fox, Russell Westbrook, John Wall, and Derrick Rose. Fox is probably the next best in this category because his speed is a big part of what makes him such a good player, and then Westbrook, Wall, and Rose are all guys who at their peak were unbelievably quick, but probably aren't where they used to be now because of either injuries or the fact that they're getting up there in age. Moving on now to the next category, we will be ranking the strongest player in the NBA. Strength is something that can mean a bunch of different things. You can look at who lifts the most, who is pound for pound the strongest, or who's the biggest, but again, all of these things do need to be taken into account. With that being said, the choice for strongest player in the NBA is someone who sets the hardest screens, boxes out better than anyone else on the glass, and simply will not be moved on defense if you try to back him down, being Steven Adams of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Adams is intimidating as hell out on the court, and his size and strength make him somebody nobody wants to be on the opposite end of a screen for. Jimmy Butler once said, "He hit me with a screen and I thought my life was over," showing just how tough he is to outmuscle. Over the last 3 seasons, Russell Westbrook notably averaged a triple-double, establishing himself as one of the best rebounding guards of all time, but that feat would not have been possible without Adams battling down low possession after possession, boxing guys out, and clearing the way for Westbrook to crash the glass. He has yet to average double-digit rebounds on a season, but that by no means tells the whole story, because the work that Adams puts in down low by using his strength makes things so much easier for those around him. He simply will not be be backed down, and when he boxes you out, the likelihood is that you won't be getting the rebound. The honorable mentions for this category include Dwight Howard, LeBron James, Joel Embiid, and Zion Williamson. Dwight used to be the guy who without question led this category, but in recent years he's slimmed down a bit. He's still incredibly strong, but it's not quite as forceful as it was back in his prime, back in his Orlando Magic days. LeBron's here for obvious reasons, being someone who finishes at the rim through contact better than anyone we've arguably ever seen. Joel Embiid is the most dominant post player in the NBA right now, who is simply unstoppable in the low post without a double team, and Zion Williamson is the new guy, bringing levels of physicality that make for a must-see show every night. Zion's been ridiculed for being very overweight, being the second heaviest player in the league despite only being 6'7", but in the small sample size we've seen from him so far, he's a bully down low, using his strength to his advantage. The next category up for discussion is leaping ability, meaning these are the players whose freakish athleticism make for constant highlight reel dunks in game and fly through the air and finish strong at the rim. Explosiveness, vertical leap, dunk count, and obviously the eye test all play a part in this category, and with that being said, the man that claims the throne here is Zach LaVine of the Chicago Bulls. LaVine came into the league as raw of a talent as they come, but the one thing that always stuck out was the fact that he could fly through a gym. The rest of his game has definitely developed, and he's now a lethal overall scorer, but even still, he's a legendary dunker of the basketball. What makes him a top dog here is, well, a lot of things. For one, in a pre-draft workout, he recorded an absurd 46-inch vertical leap, already showing he was one of the best leapers in the NBA. Second, he's a two-time winner of the dunk contest, and the shows he put on in both of those victories go down in history as some of the best performances in the history of the event. Yes, I know many people still believe that Aaron Gordon was robbed in one of them, and Gordon is definitely an honorable mention in this category, so don't worry, but the dunks LaVine pulled off were great in their own right. He was throwing down through the legs dunks from the foul line, getting up ridiculously high, and winning over America with his hops. In games, he has the most dunks by a guard in the entire league this season with 88, meaning he's throwing down multiple dunks per game, and ranks amongst all big men in this regard. Now, getting into the honorable mentions of this category, as I just said, Aaron Gordon is one, along with Derrick Jones Jr., Zion Williamson, and LeBron James. Derrick Jones won this year's dunk contest, and in games, a lot of his production comes on high-flying dunks, so obviously he belongs here. LeBron James may be getting up there in age, but at his physical peak, he was easily the guy at the forefront of this category, and even now, he's still throwing down some crazy poster dunks on a regular basis. With Zion Williamson, he's the guy who I can genuinely see challenge for the top spot for maybe the next decade. We only saw a little bit of him this season, but coming into the league, he was one of the craziest physical specimens we had ever seen, and his hops have been on full display since high school. And finally, the last category we'll be ranking is that of basketball IQ, which is obviously the most subjective out of all of them because of the fact that there isn't any real way to rank it. It pretty much all comes down to who you believe are the smartest players in the league based on their decision making, ability to make the right play, and the way they see the court, along with how they perform. With that being said, the guy sitting at the top is, without question, LeBron James. LeBron has all of the physical attributes needed to dominate the game of basketball, but what elevated him far past the level of normal superstardom and put him amongst the best to ever play the game is his mind. He's a small forward with the strength of a big man and the mind of a point guard, and his versatility is why he's had so much success as he had. He truly is one of the best passers to ever play the game, and the way he sees the court is top-notch. The role of point forward is exemplified exactly by the way LeBron plays the game, and this season, above all else, is evidence that he could be a primary playmaker if he needed to be, playing point guard most of this season, and as a result, is leading the league in assists with 10.6 per game. The honorable mentions for this category include Chris Paul, Steph Curry, James Harden, and Nikola Jokic. Paul may be on a decline as a player because of age, but he's still one of the smartest players the game has ever seen, and is definitely LeBron's biggest competition here. His nickname of being the point god came directly from the fact that he could do everything you wanted a point guard to do, and his playmaking and decision making were all-time great. Then the guys like Steph Curry and James Harden make the list for being players who have been able to change the way the game is played because of their unique ability to create. Curry's unparalleled shooting ability and determination to get to his spots show that he's able to outsmart those around him and punish them who allow him to do what he wants. Harden's IQ, I think, is slept on, but every summer he adds a new move to his arsenal that people always complain is a travel, but by letter of the law is legal, so his knowledge of the game and ability to execute it consistently in-game has never been seen before. Then there's Nikola Jokic, who is one of the most unique big men we've ever seen, and his ability to create from the post and find open shooters makes him, in my opinion, the best passing big man to ever play. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below who you think are the best players in these categories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.